New and 10 state Democrats are introducing new legislation that would improve conditions in state prisons. The proposal includes hot shower requirements for inmates, weekly in-person visits, and tolerable temperatures in cells. The state prison system is also dealing with staffing issues, which has led to lockdowns in Green Bay and Waupun that have gone on for months. In this year's state budget, Governor Tony Evers increased guards' starting pay from $20 per hour to nearly $33 per hour, but it's still done little to improve staffing. Legislation package does not address the staff shortages or how the mandates will be met without adding more guards. Republicans have not responded to questions about the bill's chances of passing.